James here from GoodGuitarist.com, and in today's lesson I'm going to show you how to play Afterglow by Ed Sheeran. Now this song uses the most common 4-chord progression ever, G, E minor, C, D. You'll find that in a ton of tunes. The one thing we'll have to focus on is the strumming pattern. You know, since the chords are so common and so simple, the strumming is a little bit more involving. I wouldn't say complicated, but you know, there's a couple more steps to figuring it out, and it is very fast. So we'll be focusing most of our attention on that. If along the way you find any extra help, I have a bunch of resources. There's my free ebook, which goes over all the basics of chords and strumming. There's my complete beginner's course, which does that, but guides you through the entire thing, start to finish. I also have Strumming Made Simple, which is kind of like the sequel to my beginner's course where we build up that strumming, and that would be helpful for a tune like this, especially for getting this up to speed. There's also the chord chart on my Patreon. And real quick, before we learn the chord shapes, in the intro there, I was playing with a capo on the 4th fret, and if you want to play along with the original recording, you'll have to do that. But for the sake of this lesson, we're going to do it here in the normal spot. So here's the chord chart that I have for this song. These are the chord shapes we'll be using. There's G, C add 9, E minor 7, and D. And if you're already comfortable with these chord shapes, I want you to skip ahead to the timestamp below. Otherwise, we're going to take a little more in-depth look at these shapes and some switching tips. First chord shape is a G chord. And from G, we go to C add 9. All we have to do is take these two fingers and move them that way, one string, and that's C add 9. And I like to make sure that my middle finger is touching the underside of the thickest string, and that'll mute it. You could also use your thumb to do that, but that's really helpful because we can avoid getting that lowest string, which makes the C chord not sound too great, right? So we can mute that string. And then we have an E minor chord. And if you're a bit newer to guitar, you could even leave these two fingers down and switch from C add 9 to E minor 7. That sounds totally fine in the context of this song. And then we have a D chord. And there is a spot where we switch from G to D. So I recommend leaving your third finger down when you do that. So we have our G, we leave our third finger down, and we pivot into a D shape. Now, most of the time I would start with the verse, but I actually want to start with the pre-chorus since it's the simplest part. It uses C, G, and D, and then we just repeat the same thing over and over again, and that makes our pre-chorus. So it's a great way to get used to these chord shapes. We're going to play downstrokes only, counting along, starting off on C. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. G, 2, 3, 4. D. And we just do that over and over again. So back to C. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. G. Couple more times. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. G. Switch to D. Last time. C. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. G. Switch to D. Great, so now that we have a little bit of the chord progression down, let's learn our strumming pattern. I want to practice our strumming pattern with the simplest part of this song so that we can really, really focus on it. It goes like this. I'll do it much slower. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and... When you slow it down, it doesn't really sound like it. There's a pretty big gap between where we're practicing this and what it actually sounds like. And the biggest piece of advice I can give you is that Ed Sheeran likes to do this time thing where he goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. You know, in this case, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So let's break down our pattern that way. We start off going down, root, root. 1, 2, 3. So that's simple enough. We just do a downstroke, and then we do 2 little downstrokes that focus on the thicker strings. We'll call those root strokes for our purposes. So we go 1, 2, 3. And he does that 2 times, which reinforces a 3 feel. This is called hemiola, where you superimpose a feeling of, it's like we're counting in 3, but the song is still in 4/4. You know, and that's something that, it's not the most beginner concept ever, but we can practice it in a really simple way. We're just going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So the big downstroke is on 1, and then 2 and 3 are just the little ones. And then we count that 1, 2, because we're going to be filling up that space in a second when we add the rest of the strokes. So I want you to practice it just like that. Try it over each of the chord shapes in this song. Try it over C add 9, over E minor, over D. For D, you'll have to cover up the thickest string a little bit with your thumb when you're doing that root strum, or else, you know, that's another one of those. Anyways, try it out over each of the shapes, get used to it, and then we can add that last down, down, up during the 1, 2. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So that last little bit is just a downstroke and then a down, up. And if that's too much for you, you could just do 2 downstrokes. So I'll recap everything super slowly. Here's the way that I'd like you to play it. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And here's a simplified way where we get rid of the upstroke, basically. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So we just do 2 downstrokes at the end. It's up to you, but I want you to take a look at this strumming pattern. Really slowly count your way through it. You know, that's the best way, is to get used to it so that you do it perfectly. There's no point trying to speed it up if you're going to be making errors, because then you're just going to speed up your mistakes and play it fast and wrong. We're going to get it perfect slowly, and it's not going to happen overnight. It might take a while, but if you just keep working on it, eventually you'll be so used to the motions that speeding it up won't be an issue. And you don't have to get it all the way up to the tempo that he's playing. He's playing it ridiculously fast. Just get it a little bit faster. We're not going to go that fast in this tutorial. And then when you're ready, we can put it together with our chord progression from the pre-chorus, starting off on C add 9. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Times. So I would focus on just that part, putting the pre-chorus together with the strumming pattern. Once you can do that comfortably, the rest of the tune isn't too difficult. We're just rearranging the chords, playing the E minor chord in there somewhere, and that's pretty much it. So take your time with that, and now we're going to learn the verse. For the verse, We're using the same 4 chords as the rest of the song. The order's a little bit different. So first, let's play downstrokes only so we can get used to that. Starting off on a G chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. G, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. C. 1, 2, 3, 4. D. E minor. 3, 4. C. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Then we do that again. G, 2. C, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Go to D, 3, 4. E minor, 2, 3, 4. C, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's the same 8 measures 2 times in a row. Work on that until you have the order down, and then we're going to add our strumming pattern to it the exact same way, starting off on G, nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. All right, so that's the verse. All that's left to learn is the chorus, which is very similar to the pre-chorus. We play the same progression as the pre-chorus 1 time, and then we play 2 measures of C and 2 measures of G. So it's almost like the pre-chorus progression, except we don't go to D. Very, very simple. Let's just try it together, nice and slow, starting off on C. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so it's not too bad. Otherwise, there aren't any other sections to learn. We know all the little bits. So let's try putting together our own little version of this tune. We're just going to play verse, pre-chorus, chorus, all the way through so you can get used to the transitions. We're going to be starting off on a G, and we're going to do it at like a medium pace, something between ultra slow and ultra fast, like we're doing on the original recording. Starting off on G, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So that's how you play Afterglow by Ed Sheeran. Don't forget that if you want to play along with the original recording, you'll put a capo on the 4th fret, but you're welcome to just do it the way that we were doing. Totally up to you. If you find that you need any extra help, don't forget about my resources. There's my free ebook, which goes over all the basics of chords and strumming, my complete beginner's course, and Strumming Made Simple, another course that takes your strumming a little bit further than the beginner stages, and that chord chart on my Patreon. Otherwise, have a fun time practicing, and I'll see you soon.